Returning to our top story, Dana Lam has been elected as the new president of AWARE tonight after a marathon 6-hour extraordinary general meeting. But before we get an update of the details of the election, we return to our reporter Pearl Force for some of the other issues raised during the meeting. Pearl, what else was said?
You know, Gerard, it was moving at times. Founding members of AWARE had turned up and some of them were so old and weak they had to be helped to the mic. And they made an impassioned plea for AWARE to remain secular and represent the rights of minorities. Local celebrity Irene Ang also stood up and said she is a Christian, but she could not trust the new EXCO who talked about helping women during the downturn, then firing their centre manager, and that the new EXCO talked about openness in AWARE and then put in new locks for the centre. Now, responding to all these, Josie Lau, now former president of AWARE, said AWARE will help lesbians who come forward for help and counsel them in a secular way. You know, she also stressed repeatedly that AWARE was secular. Now, like I said earlier, emotions ran high, and at one point, Sally Ang, honorary secretary in the EXCO that has just been voted out, yelled at the members to shut up and sit down. This, of course, did not go down well with the crowd, who yelled back. Now, feminist mentor Teo Siew Mien also stood up and said the new members had no respect for elders like herself, and members took the mic and told her that respect needs to be earned. The sexuality education program was also brought up, and several teachers, students and social workers stood up in support of the program. They said it's really important that youth be taught about sexuality openly, and also that there shouldn't be discrimination against the homosexuals. Then there was the issue of men. The new EXCO made the hundreds of men who turned up for the meeting sit in a corner away from everyone else, and that was definitely not a popular decision. My colleague Cheryl Lim, who was also at the AWARE extraordinary meeting, will recount what happened after the EXCO, headed by Josie Lau, took a break to decide if they would step down after the vote of no confidence was passed. Cheryl?
Hi, Paul. Thanks. Now, after Josie and her committee left the hall, the lawyers were consulted, and they actually said that during that period of time, while the EXCO was given, while the motion was passed to give the EXCO a vote of no confidence, the EXCO has been elected and are entitled to office for a finite period of time. But they also said that judging by similar situations, it is usually through common courtesy, common sense and custom that office bearers step down. And while the members were patiently waiting for Josie and her EXCO members to make their decision, there were screams of laughter and joy ringing throughout the hall. But after a 15 to 20 minute absence, the members grew impatient and calls were made for them to reappear. Now, they did not do so and only reappeared after a motion was passed by members to vote them out of office. Now, when they appeared, they also issued a statement saying that they would graciously resign and wish the new team best of luck. Now, moving on to the new team, as Paul has said earlier, it's fronted by former AWARE President Dana Lam, and the Vice President is Chui Jin. Now, among the other EXCO members are some of the older veteran members, including Margaret Thomas and Karina Lim, who is the Assistant Honorary Secretary. Some of the newer AWARE members that we see in the lineup as well, they've also been actively participating in AWARE matters, but are only just recently beginning to come forward, are Joanna De Cruz and Martha Lee. So maybe I'll pass you over back to you, Gerard.
All right, Cheryl, thank you much. Well, we do know now that newly elected AWARE President Dana Lam has just spoken to reporters right after the meeting ended. And to give us an update, joining us on the line now is MediaCorp 938 Live reporter Geraldine So to give us an update. Geraldine, fill us in.
Hi, Gerard. Well, happiness was written all over the face of Dana Lam. Obviously, she said many times that it's a privilege to come back to serve an organization that she so believes in. You know, she said initially they were all hopeful that AWARE, the old AWARE, would be restored to what it was. And what caught them by surprise, especially, were the voices that spoke out for them today. You know, there were so many different people of different cultures, races, religion, and she stressed many times that she's very happy to be back. And she used this phrase, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So what will be her immediate tasks? One is to restore confidence to the organization. She hopes to resurrect the subcommittee and members who have been let go by the previous EXCO. She says it takes many years to find people with the right fit and skills to do voluntary work like this. The next thing she wants to do is to restore confidence to the AWARE centers. So CCTVs and security locks, these will be removed. So what will she do to make sure something like that does not happen again? A very next key thing on her agenda is to improve the Constitution. Now, she said that there was a discussion actually to tighten the Constitution, like making sure that someone has to be a member and has been volunteering in a subcommittee for at least a year before they can be voted into the EXCO, but these changes were never effected in time. So what they want to do is to put in place more safeguards. As for her new EXCO, she said that she believes it's a diversified enough one. There is a person, a Malay Muslim. There's also a mix of old and new. There is the old being Margaret Thomas among the founding members. New ones are 2 fresh graduates, one in psychology, one in masters in public policy. There are lawyers, homemakers, early childhood educators. And she said it's good to have fresh blood because the picture that they've painted in the media is of this group of old ladies clinging on to an organization, and she said this is not the case. Now, asked about being voted as president, elected as president of 56-year-old Dana, she was a former 2-term president, so she says it's a privilege to serve, and she left to pursue her own interests in writing, but she says she's always felt like she owed AWARE something, and that you know, you can never quite take AWARE out of a woman who's been a member at least for those who are genuinely interested to serve the organization. Gerard.
All right, Geraldine, thank you much. That was MediaCorp 938 live reporter Geraldine So. Well, what can we say? Definitely a long day with many twists and turns. Pearl, give us a sum up of the highlights of this extraordinary meeting today.
Well, Gerard, the highlight has to be the stepping down of the AWARE EXCO and the strong rejection of the encroachment of religious values on a secular space. The next key point is the new EXCO now at AWARE, made up of people from all walks of life, as you heard my colleague Geraldine talk about earlier. As you also heard, future candidates standing for elections to the Executive Committee of AWARE may have to be a member for at least 1 year before they are eligible to do so, says Dana Lam, the new president of AWARE. This is one of the constitutional amendments the new EXCO will look into to prevent another takeover of the organization. You know, Gerard, having been there the whole day, it was just moving to see so many women sacrifice their time to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for pluralism, for diversity, and for being inclusive.
Definitely dramatic and interesting. All right, thank you much to all my colleagues, Pearl, as well as Cheryl Lim and Geraldine as well from MediaCorp Live at 938.